Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third Elevator Lab Challenge Southeast Europe category event. This day, we will be talking about different solutions in the area of ESG, and we will have a chance to hear 6 startups from our region. Just to remind those of you who might not have been following us in the previous 2 days, we have heard 16 startups in 2 different categories. So we had first category event where we heard 6 startups from our SME banking and retail, and also large corporates and institutional clients. Yesterday, we had a lot of teams. We heard 10 startups that are building solutions in the area of advanced analytics and artificial intelligence, as well as payments and transaction processing. So far, we had 2 teams that qualified to our regional final. Those are Swinto and Easy Albania, and they will be joined by the 3rd team who wins today's competition. Just a quick reminder about what are the perks of entering this program and becoming a regional and category winner. So all of the teams who win their respective categories win 5,000 euros in grant money, and also an opportunity to integrate their innovation into Raiffeisen Banks network of more than 2.6 million clients in our entire region. They also qualify for our regional final, where the winner can expect a prize of 10,000 euros in grant, and also a chance to pitch at the International Elevator Lab Demo Day that is happening in 2022, and also meeting with senior bank managers from regional Raiffeisen Banks, as well as Raiffeisen Bank International. As I mentioned, we will hear 6 teams today, and they will have 3 minutes for their pitches and another 5 minutes for the Q&A with our jury. We will have 7 jury members as in the previous days, and at this point, I'd like to introduce them, and you will get to see more of them during our pitching sessions. Today with us here are 6 jury members from regional Raiffeisen Banks, and also 1 external jury member. So from the regional Raiffeisen Banks, we have Barbara Mihailovic. Hi, Barbara. Welcome.
Great. Hello, everybody. Hi, Nevenka.
Hi. We also have Momir Rakic. Hi, Momir.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
As in the previous 2 days, with us here today is also Aida Hoja. Hi, Aida. Nice to see you again. We also have Natasha Mlakar. Our external jury member for today is Paola Hodaj. And we also have Resmi Hibrai. I'm not sure if Resmi is with us today. Hi, Resmi, great to have you. This is our jury for today. They will be with us during 5-minute Q&A sessions with each of the teams. And now we will have a chance to hear the first team of the day that's building a solution in the area of ESG, and that's Academy AL.
The world we're living in today, mixed with digital environments, has changed how money is used, handled, spent, and saved. And younger people today also face a lot of financial stress and a lack of real financial knowledge relating to how or when to spend or save money. And at the same time, many struggle with the range of options and solutions which are often poorly differentiated for the financially illiterate. Millennials and also Generation Z are demanding an increasing level of self-service through apps and online services as well. And this has put an increased load on the consumer to make their own financial decisions without custom or personalized advice. The importance of financial education programs will increase as younger generation grow old and face more complicated financial decisions. That's why we've come up with a solution for this huge problem. Academy PICAL is going to educate young people over banks' products and services, and in order to create knowledgeable consumers through our online e-learning platform. Starting out as a digital solution built specifically to aid the Albanian pre-university system during 2020, today we are embraced by more than 500,000 teachers and students. We are learning in these virtual environments that we have created, instantly connect with their peers and teachers in real time, watch quality video lessons, presentations, and take quizzes, resulting in more than 200 1,000 page views per month. Nowadays, we see ourselves being at the forefront of the all online learning, and that's why we're expanding our library day by day to include courses in the fields of personal development, gaming, programming languages, design, and of course, financial literacy. The courses, which are self-paced, include quality video lectures, presentations, and quizzes that increase interactivity, and our students cannot seem to love them enough. Besides being an easy-to-use, accessible, and an official government partner, we are a young international team that comes from different academic backgrounds, and we know by first-hand experience that issues in education, and especially in financial literacy, can impact, and in most cases even predict a child's life, and thus impacting the broader society as well in the years to come. That's why we strongly believe that through our work, young people can get the financial education they need, and the financial institutions can get consumers that are not a burden for the financial system and that make smart and strong decisions.
Thank you, Irena, for your pitch. And I also skipped to mention Bujar, our seventh jury member. Sorry for that. And now we can move on with our 5-minute Q&A.
Hi, everyone.
I'll start with a question. Thank you for the presentation. So you had a slide there with a pitch with a proposal for RBI, but I wasn't clear. Where exactly do you see the bank helping you, and where do you see you helping us? So what's the value added for the bank or for the customer, the way you see it?
Of course. Well, for the moment, as I mentioned during the presentation, we have more than 500,000 registered users in our platform that are constantly coming back to our platform to get the education they want. What we've done during the pandemic is that we've added a huge library of courses, which primarily has targeted school subjects, but now we are expanding that library to include more courses that are in the fields of like personal development, financial literacy, etc. So we strongly believe that having a young person to be in contact with some financial literacy knowledge, since they are not even if they are less than 18 years old, will have them a little bit more prepared when they are like real customers. They will need to go to a bank, they will need to open up a bank account, they will need to know more about how to save money, how to budget, and how to do everything else. So in this case, we strongly believe that having the young people, equipping them with this financial literacy knowledge that we are going to deliver through our courses is going to benefit not only the young people, but also the bank in the long term, because the bank will then have more knowledgeable consumers at the end of the day. So
basically, you are educating our future customers, right? Sorry, yeah, just a follow-up question. So you are helping to educate our future customers. But exactly in what limelight would you see you cooperating with the bank? Are you trying to get RBI to onboard your platform and use it for their clients? What exactly is? I want you to be more precise so that we can. It helps us to evaluate it better. That's why.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Well, we would hope for some expertise on the content that we'll need to prepare. So we know that you guys have the financial knowledge, and we have the means of creating courses, and we know what kind of courses our young audience needs and what kind of methodologies we need to use. But we lack the financial literacy even ourselves to have the right experts to explain these concepts to them. So in this case, that's what we would need to have from the group. And of course, we would make available all the courses to the 500,000 audience that we have.
I would like to ask.
Yeah.
I would like to ask what differentiates your product from the existing, let's say, platforms, similar platforms.
Well, as we know right now, it doesn't exist a platform as huge as we are, at least in the Western Balkans, that has such a huge audience and a strong brand recognition, especially even in Albania. In Albania, I suppose, and not suppose, but I'm 100% sure that we are the first thing that young people think when they think about online courses and online learning.
May I?
Yep.
Hi, Irina. How are you? I also didn't get to introduce myself, but I believe that we know each other. Congrats for the initiative. I've heard about it from Dan previously. Actually, I have a question. Like, now I consider you, since I've known you, you guys as a startup, like in the ecosystem for a while now. My question would be like, if I would like to introduce you to investors, what is your pitch for them? Like, how would you make money for investors? Like, I'm challenging you to another level.
I understand. Well, the way that we're making money right now, Paula, is through a mix of B2B and B2C as well. At the moment, most of the courses that we have, the huge library of courses, is made for free for our students. There are some other courses, like a huge number of them, that are paid courses, and they target a little bit more advanced learning for our students. So this is one of the streams of income that we have implemented so far. Other thing that we have as a platform, the architecture, since it was built upon, it is a multi-level and multi-tenant architecture, which means that we can clone ourselves and we can, let's say, make another Academy Pical, but with another name and with another brand customization and everything. And we can provide this platform to another institution.
Thank you, Irina. This was all the time we had for our Q&A. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So the next team that we will hear today is Inclusio.
As a visually impaired person, when I go to bank, post office, grocery store, or any other public place, I need some special help there. And employees in those branches are willing to help. But the problem is that they cannot know that I need the help until I reach them and explain. In order to explain, to ask for the help, I need to overcome some barriers. For instance, the rotating door at the entrance or navigating to the crowd is a big issue for me. Interviewing people with other types of disabilities, we have validated that all of them recognize the similar problem. We call this problem the communicational gap, because the disabled person had to overcome barriers in order to reach the person and then ask for the help. By providing a way to overcome this communicational gap, we are not solving the small problem. Basically, we are helping around 1 billion people worldwide. They are accessing more than 5.5 million branches all over the world. These kind of problems are well recognized. We can see that through the rising number of investments in the CSR. They are recognized by investments and by companies, so we can see that this is definitely something which is a trend in the world. So what have we created? Our solution, which is Inclusio, is now the MVP, composing of two main components. First one is a smartphone app. It is aimed to be used by persons with disability. And the second one is tablet app, which is installed in the branch, and it's used by the employee. Disabled person can describe the problem and the specific help which is needed on the branch. They can browse to all the locations and notify about their arrival when they're in the front of the object. After that, our tablet app notifies the employee about arrival of the person, explaining his specific disability and need, as well as picture in order to be easily recognized by the employee.
There are different companies working in a similar segment to us. However, they are usually focused on a single disability and on a very niche situation. The disadvantages of our competitors are that they are volunteer-based. They're also only providing digital help, And most importantly, they are just financed from the user payments. Our advantages are that our assistance is provided by employees of companies. They're able to provide physical assistance, and it's financed by business partners. Our early adopter user is a tech-savvy person with disability that is proud to be independent and that is using a smartphone. Our early adopter company is a growing company, a multinational with branches in Serbia, and that is already investing in ESG solutions. And that is why we believe that Raiffeisen Bank would be a perfect partner for us to pilot our program in Serbia with some other companies and then scale to Italy and Slovenia, where we already have established contacts. Thank you.
Thank you, Rasko and Bojan, for your pitch. And now we will move on to our Q&A with the jury.
Maybe I can start with the first question. Nice presentation. Sorry if I missed, but I didn't get how can the banks help here and why you need the banks?
Okay, so basically the bank is one of the typical objects where people with disabilities have to go and should go independently. So our product is designed to be used by clients, and one of the typical clients would be the bank, actually. So we would have the very direct way of cooperation where each bank would install our system inside the branch, and then somebody inside would be notified once the person with disability is trying to access your branch. So me personally, for instance, if I'm in front of the object, I would call for the help through my mobile app using Inclusio, and the tablet app, which the bank has is in the branch, will notify somebody in the bank that I need the help to access and get inside.
Thank you.
Yes, I can follow up with a question. As I understand, do I understand you right or not, you don't need any integration with the existing system of the bank, right?
Basically, we thought about being independent so that we don't want to interfere with your systems, especially because of the security issues. So we are a completely independent system. So you just install, you just basically receive the tablet device with pre-installed application, which is connected to Inclusio, and which all the people with disabilities in the whole network of us are connected to. So you don't have to do any modifications in your current system.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I have a question, please. So you referenced a tablet. So basically, you're offering the bank the app, and then obviously customers or the bank has to buy the tablets as well. How is it packaged?
Basically, for the first customers, we have planned to use like our tablets to provide also to lease the tablet included, because our business model is monthly membership, like monthly fee. So there is an option that in that fee you have also the tablet device leased, so that we can just replace it once the leasing is ended there. And on the other hand, we have the option of the company who wants to provide the tablet devices from themselves. In that case, we just install our system on the tablet devices that you have provided. So both options are open there.
Okay, great. And a follow-up question: do you have any retail industries where you are using or you've partnered with your service? Is your service live with any retail industries? It doesn't have to be banking, but any other retail sectors?
Yes, thank you for the question. We have just finished our MVP and we have started selling. We are already talks with a telco company and a retail company in Serbia for now, and we are also in talks in negotiations with several local governments. So those are the segments that we want to work with, and we are going to launch our app for the users once we have some locations there, so they can have something to do with it.
Okay, well, good luck. It's very interesting. It's a niche. I haven't heard many fintechs going after this space, but I think it's to be commended, even from a social inclusion standpoint. I think it's a good contribution.
Thank you very much for recognizing the potential. Definitely, our vision is that basically any object around the city is equipped with such system, because it's scalable and it's made for like developing countries, so it's not that hard to be scaled, in opposite to some high-tech solutions that just remain in the big universities and laboratories that cost a lot. So this is designed to be scaled. So we really hope that people with disabilities would have a lot of locations where they can use systems like this.
Thank you, Rasko and Bojan. This was all the time we had for our Q&A with the jury. This was team Inclusio. And our third team of the day is Enchele.
Hi, everyone. I am Barnam Milazi. I am the CEO of Enchele. At Enchele, we believe in changing the future of living. The way we change the future of living is by making products that make our life easier, efficient, and safe. We identified that most of buildings consume energy inefficiently. In order to save energy, we have to stop appliances physically, which is a process that takes time and usually we don't do. We also identified that 70% of households are not secured with security systems. We developed hardware and software for building automations that has an energy management systems, comfort control, and security. We want to implement this solution in every home, residential, and commercial building. As a 100 billion market and not dominated by big companies, the smart home is the best market to enter and push technology further. Currently, we have developed products that include communication systems, modules, and sensors. All these products communicate through Enchele Home, which is an app you can integrate, control, and manage your home devices. We make money by selling products, by leasing an app to customers that use our API, and through monthly subscription. As a team, we are 8 now and soon to be 15, a team with a vision to change the future. Our partner investor is Iskra from Slovenia that invested 1.5 million in infrastructure, molding, production, R&D. Through their sales channels, we will start selling our products in April 2022 and start the mass production there. As per Raiffeisen Bank, as a use case, how can we help Raiffeisen Bank? It's by integrating all their buildings in our platform to control, optimize, and manage energy consumption. For example, by integrating all the devices in our platform with the schedule to turn them off during non-working hours and weekends, for example, for appliances and for devices. If you turn them off, the energy savings can go up to 20%. If we optimize the heating and lighting, the energy savings can go up to 25% in total electrical consumption. Through our app, you can generate reports on daily, weekly, monthly, and even yearly for every device, room, and building to manage their energy consumption. The graph that shows energy consumption can be an awareness and staff inside the building. To turn off the PC from sleep mode has an impact. By one click on the app, you can save energy and contribute in energy savings for the company and also for the environment, for less energy produced from coal plants and less CO2 emissions. Thank you very much.
For your pitch, and now we will have 5 minutes for the Q&A with the jury.
Thank you. If I might start with the first question. Nice presentation. As you probably know, there are a number of companies, large companies, serious, well-established companies offering products in regards to the product that you presented. Some of them, of course, are, let's say, expensive, but there are also cheap ones. So what do you bring? What's unique about you in this case? We can't hear you, sorry. You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, as a company, we focused on 3 main things. The first one was easy to use products. The second one was energy management system. And the third one is Enchele learning system. And for the ease of use is to make it as user-friendly for everyone to control the home or building, etc. The energy management is something, a software that is expanded for the user to control the building, to monitor energy consumption in details, in history, for every device, every room, every building in general, to make comparisons, to make everything. So you can see in details how you consume energy daily, weekly, and by hours, and everything. And the third one is ELS, as I mentioned. It's a platform by machine learning we are developing that learns from the behavior of the users, how they, what they do on the work, how they consume energy, what appliances they activate, in which time, and everything. And the system automates the building based on their preferences, but using energy in the most efficient way. But this is under development, so we plan this to launch by the end of 2022. And this is the major thing we plan to have a competitive advantage in the market. As per corporates, as you mentioned, it's that now we are in partner with a big corporate, and things in corporates moves very slowly. So as a startup, we're trying to make some innovative solutions, to find some gaps on the market, and to sell the products with a cost affordable for the companies to invest, and for the building management system. So these three main things is where we are focused for the moment.
May I continue?
Yeah.
Congrats on the pitch. It was like, I liked the flow of the slides for the pitch. What I would like to know, like from your perspective, is how big is the market opportunity for you guys? What do you envision?
Yeah, very good question. Actually, the top market that is growing more than 50% is the home automation market, or we call it as the automation market. Actually separated in two sides, in industry and in residential premises. So in residential premises, it's 100 billion in the year, but it will be multiplied by 3 or 4 by the end of 2030. So it's a market with a big potential. As corporates are more and more investing on this side, because it's a side that brings more innovative solutions, because the home is something that we affect, and we came daily. Every day we live in our homes, we do things in our homes. So what we're trying, and corporates, what they're trying, is to influence with their products living standards of the people. So what we focused, it's to make something profitable for the people, not just automation to control things. And the energy management is something new that will also grow the market. Also, if we add energy management, it's going to be 10+ billion, because it's a new way people can benefit from automation.
We have time for maybe one short question, if anyone would like to ask.
I have one if there are no takers. You mentioned that one of the use cases for the bank is to increase their energy efficiency in their premises. Would there be a CapEx investment required for the bank to use your services?
Yeah.
Do we need to invest anything to make it compliant with your app?
Actually, no. What we have to do is just to install our products in the banks, which is the modules installed in the bank, and you can control all the building from a smart home or from the PC program, which is our program. So what you can make there is you can make schedules for devices. For example, during non-working hours and weekends, you can just turn off everything except essential devices that run servers, run some important things. You can just keep them on, and the other you can just turn off. And during the night also, you can just turn off all the lights. You can just keep essentials. And this
Thank you, Bayram. This was all the time we had for our Q&A. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the next team that will present today is Tepema.
Hello, I'm Dion Deva, CEO of Tepema, a green and sustainable design living space solution company that operates in the smart and sustainable cities industry, fighting the climate change that are serious threat to human civilization. We have built the SOT 2.0, is the innovative version of vertical greenery application, complementary to solar panels. Solar panels generate energy Facade 2.0 saves energy, through which we insulate buildings thermally and save electricity using 80% of recycled textile materials. The level of innovation is like when we went from the classic TVs to the flat ones. The bigger impact of our product is in Mediterranean countries, because all enterprises that have a lot of staff in their offices and they spend a lot of fixed costs in the electricity bills, we're going to help. We provide these companies around 30% cut on electricity bills at the end of the year. In addition of the wonderful facade that eliminates pollutants, we guaranteed 5 years return on investment. We're confident because we're testing in Pristina the prototype of the Facade 2.0, which is designed in modules for easy replicable production. Compared to the classic form or vertical greenery, we have reduced 50% of installation costs. We had an exponential revenue growth from 0 to 50K and then to 250K per year. We have already built the prototype in the second frequentist street in Kosovo. That's why we need 500K to make it Facade 2.0, like solar panels, and a proprietary service in order to protect our market. In this way, we will continue into the multi-billion market green facade, and our engines are higher margin due to low cost of production, market size and demand, and the third, customer's life. Our clients are investing €0, and we're partners sharing the savings from electricity bills. From the outdoor, each house we're in a green facade, at the end of the year, will prevent 500 kilograms of CO2, or 20% better. Taken together, the first entire beachhead market will prevent 66,000 tons of carbon dioxide. I marvel to be part of a wonderfully talented team that created 2 sustainable companies, 13 products, 5 of them into the market, serving 1,100 people. Thank you from our team.
Thank you, Dion, for your pitch. And now we will have 5 minutes for the questions of the jury.
Thank you.
Maybe if I can start. Excellent presentation. Thank you. Are you, because there was some background noise, so I didn't understand well. So if you can repeat, you are producing and implementing this innovative solar panels solution, so to speak. And it's for medium-sized and large companies as well as residential buildings, or you're focusing also on corporate clients, right?
Yes, let me explain from the beginning. We're a complementary product to solar panels. Solar panels generate energy. We save energy. It's a panel that is installed into the facade of the building that cover buildings and isolated thermally. And our first more educated clients are large and medium enterprises. From them, those who spend most of the fixed cost to keep environment cool from the employers, kind of banks or insurance companies that most of employees are in-house. And thus they spend a lot of electricity bills to keep the environment cool, especially in Mediterranean countries where the most of the months are hot or summer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe I can go with a question. Usually for these types of products, kind of it's not enough if you just say it's good, it saved this much and that much. For that reasons, companies attend these international certifications and product testings and assurance and so on. So have you done anything, at least with any regional company, to attest your product?
We are testing our product in functionality and in saving energy. We're testing on a household, and the results are very promising, more than we thought. But the thing is, we need a higher authority to certify our results. For that, we need extra investment so our product to be known as solar panels. So everyone knows that the Facade 2.0 is efficient product.
I have a question. So if you're looking for some venture, I'll make it quick. If you're looking for a venture capitalist, why do you think somebody in the financial space is the appropriate partner? Why not look for somebody in the industrial space? Just curious.
Because our business model, it's not just building and selling, but we are sharing with our clients the savings from electricity bills. For this, we need a financial and legal basement. So financial institution could help us a lot in this case.
Do we have any other questions?
No, I was in the same line with the previous question. I'm set.
Okay. If not, thank you so much for your pitch. This was Team Tepema. And now for our fifth team of the day, we will hear Energy Shift.
Hi, everyone. I'm Philip, and today I will tell you more about my company, Energy Shift. But first, did you know that 78% of the European greenhouse gas emissions are caused by the energy sector alone? That makes it the highest polluting sector of them all and the one where we can make a huge impact in. In addition to this, there is lack of participation from citizens in tackling global change and climate change and global warming. And as they cannot currently invest in renewable energy easily. And there's lack of funding reported by the United Nations to reach the EU and UN targets that we set. To solve all of those problems, we started Energy Shift, a blockchain-powered platform that enables citizens to jointly invest in and co-own solar farms, thus doing good for the environment and making a passive income in the same time. The process is simple. Citizens buy a part of a solar farm. Once set up, it generates clean electricity, which is distributed and sold to the grid. In the end, citizens are credited for their share of generated electricity. Talking about the market, it was valued at $52.5 billion in 2018 and was growing at a compounded annual growth rate of 20.5%, one of the highest growing sectors in the world. And we are currently targeting the small and medium-sized solar energy parks in the Southeast Europe. Of course, we do have competitors, but we provide high returns, with lower risks, because of our project acquisition strategy, while the other competitors just provide loans to big energy companies who profit in the end. And last but not least, the team. I'm Philip, and this year I won the EU Sustainable Energy Award by the European Commission. I was a technical working group member in the United Nations High-Level Dialogue on Energy, providing recommendations on how we can achieve the SDG 7. I also have some previous startup experience and work experience from working in a solar installation company. We are working with Nexus.io blockchain developer team to implement the blockchain technology into our platform. My teammate Elena has accounting and finance background with NGO and bank work experience. And Konstantin, our advisor, mentor, and partner, is a solar installation company founder with more than 20 years of experience in the energy sector. And our dream is to be the leading platform for investment in clean and renewable energy by 2030. To sum up, I would like to invite all of you to help us make the energy transition to renewables because shift happens.
Thank you, Philip, for your pitch. And now we will have 5 minutes for our jury Q&A.
Philip, may I start?
Yes, please.
Congrats on your initiative. I have a question. Have you, have you thought of any risks that the business model has, regulatory wise, legal wise?
Yes. So first, when you mention regulatory-wise, of course, it's financial sector getting money from everyday investors. And EU recently announced a new directive that came into fruition and was implemented into the law in certain EU countries, such as Estonia and several Lithuania and other EU countries, that enables companies to actually acquire this license and then expand it throughout the EU with one of the license granted. So it's like a cross EU license that enables us to basically do this job. And to acquire it, we are raising an investment, and we are talking with several investors to do it. Regarding other risks, first of all of our power plants will have already power purchase agreements. So everything that gets produced gets bought up at a fixed price, and we can basically calculate what is the production of a certain solar farm. Also on the equipment part, basically most of the manufacturers today offer guarantees on solar panels, for example. They offer it for 20 to 30 years. So we have already, if something malfunctions, they get replaced at the manufacturer's cost. So basically all of these kind of risks are basically mitigated in this way.
I'll have two questions quickly. Why the application? Why you decided to develop the application on blockchain first? And the second question was, how do you see this of relevance to the banks?
Of course. So let me address first the second question. So how do we think about working with the bank? I feel like that it would be good for a bank to create a sort of a green investment account for their customers. So basically, for us, you would provide some customers that you already have plenty of, and you in return would get some fees, additional fees from your customers or from us for referring the customers to us. There will be no cost to you in implementing this, and you would basically enable your customers to invest long-term into renewable energy, which I think can benefit you, your company, and basically mine. So it's a win-win scenario. Talking about the first question about blockchain and how I started it, I was frustrated because I wanted to put solar panels on my house, on the roof of my parents' house, of course. And there was a complete regulatory complication. There was a lot of approvals that needed to get done, and I just wanted to get clean and affordable energy. And I saw that other people also had similar issues. And right now we already have, and that's why I started the Energy Shift. And right now we have more than 1,000 investors that pre-registered their interest to invest more than 3 million euros in solar energy parks. Talking about the blockchain part, we wanted to also enable them to invest securely and basically transparently, while also when they invest, we would tokenize the parts of the solar farm, such as like one solar panel would be one token. And that in that way, they would basically be able to sell out of their investment if they need a cash immediately. So we are basically using it to provide liquidity. So after 2 or 3 years, if you need money, if you lost your job or something happened, you can basically get your money back. I hope that answers your questions.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Do we still have time for one question?
Yes, we have time for one short question.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I enjoyed it. Unfortunately, the time was short, so can you elaborate more a bit on the slide number 1 where you describe the business model? Exactly what are you offering the customer? I understand the value proposition for the bank. That was clear. Thanks from the previous question. But what exactly are you offering to the end user, to the customer?
Basically, the end users want to do good with their money instead of just keeping it in a bank savings account. So if they want to support the green energy transition and be also a part of it, they can invest and co-own a solar park. So they can basically be a part of the energy transition, and also it will also democratize the energy sector because it's currently owned by the big energy companies that close off the sector to young and to individuals who want to do good for the environment and make money at the same time.
Thank you, Philip. This was all the time we had for our Q&A. And for our final team of the day, we will get a chance to meet Cropped.
Hello everyone, my name is Oscar and I'm coming from a company called Cropped from Novi Sad, Serbia, and we're developing AI solutions for data-driven farm assessment. So what is the problem that we're solving? Usually due to complex bureaucracy, bank officers need as much as 4 hours to process one request. And from the farmer's perspective, farmers need to wait for 14 days to get the loan. And there's also the problem that banks are not connected to farmers that have no control over their risks. So for this reason, we built this platform. This platform allows us to predict the yield. So we're starting from the yield potential at the location and we're updating it as the season progresses. So we can estimate the yields and risk at a particular location, but more than that, we can analyze the farm as a whole. And also the thing between farmers and banks is that now banks can also have the recommendation system for farmers, which can help them increase their profit for the chosen amounts of risk that they're willing to take. So how are we doing it? We're using Sentinel satellites, we're using soil data, climate data, literally any kind of data we can get a hold of. But we're also using portfolio optimization, which is a technique we brutally stole from economics. We're analyzing the farm as a whole, and we're analyzing whether the farmers diversify their crops and their varieties in an appropriate way. And if we see that it's not in an appropriate way, then we can recommend them how to increase the profit and decrease their risk. So our business model is predominantly to work with financial institutions such as banks, where we have either yearly subscription or a fixed fee plus a service fee per customer. But we also like working with agriculture companies such as K+S, Syngenta, and others. So our competition is that there are a few companies doing that, not the same way as us. They're working with index-based insurance and satellite-based vegetation intelligence. But here we're really in the box match of AI and human intelligence. The market size is enormous because we are focusing both on agriculture and banking, which are two quite big markets. And the AI in agriculture market is growing at a rate of 21% every year. We already have some pilots with K+S, Delta, and Krivoyan, successfully conducted pilots all around the world. So we know our technology works and we've got increasing revenues. And this is our team. So Sania and I are the co-founders. Vladimir, our advisor, is the World Bank's advisor for digital agriculture. And we've also got a nice business management team. So here we're looking for new investments. We're looking to bring in new clients, and we're working on scaling up our technology all around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Oscar, for your pitch. And now we will have 5 minutes for the questions of our jury.
Thanks. I can start. The presentation was cool. There are a couple of things I didn't understand. First of all, are you offering a satellite imagery service you help farmers that way, or is it somehow parametric product related? What exactly are you offering the farmers?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So we're using satellites as just one input source from, let's say there is climate data, soil data, and then there is satellite data. So we're using it to predict the yield and estimate the risk of a particular farmer at a particular location. We're not going as far as giving satellite data to the farmer and monitoring the yield, the crops, although there is something that we could do. But we are focusing on risk estimation and yield prediction, which are the two most important parameters in my belief that determine the credit score of a farmer.
Do you see the insurance products competing with you? Because the parametric insurance products do offer that. So basically, by virtue of covering the potential yield or yield default, that's what they do. So how are you different from that?
I see parametric insurance as a really good thing, but these companies are actually on the side of damages. So they detect, for example, soil moisture as a critical parameter, or maybe NDVI index from satellites. But we are at the underwriting process. So what we want to do is to estimate the riskiness of growing a particular crop at a particular field. So we're right there at the beginning when they need to apply for the insurance and when they're getting a premium offer for the free premium by the insurance company.
And in terms of the geographical coverage, so you can do wherever we want you to do. If we
Well, basically, in agriculture and digital agriculture, there is a trade-off between precision and scalability. So if companies want to be precise, they're usually going for lab analysis of the soil. They're going for sensors, which are distributed on the field. But we're taking quite a different approach. We're opting for scalability, which means that we're using globally available data like Sentinel satellites, which are available anywhere in the world, climate data from ERA 5 models, soil data from the World Soil Association. And the only thing that we need to have is some local data for calibration of the models. Although the good thing is that, for example, in Serbia, we've got 6,000 or 7,000 data points, which we use to calibrate our models here and to train them. But if we are to scale it up to Hungary or Russia, we don't need 6,000 or 7,000 points, we maybe need 100. So right now we're conducting a pilot with AB InBev, which is one of the largest multinationals for beer production. But in order to produce beer, you need to produce barley. So we took barley prediction models from Serbia and calibrated them using a limited amount of data. And now they're operating in the Kursk region in Russia. And also regarding scalability, in terms of business scalability, we're coping with companies like K+S, like AB InBev, like KWS, which we just had a talk today, which have operations all around the world. So having a B2C model in farming is quite difficult because there are 700 million farmers in the world. And it's very hard to reach them. There are only like 500,000 farmers in Serbia. They're quite traditional. They rely on their knowledge and their grandfathers' textbooks, etc. So we need to have an intermediary between us and the farmers. And that is where we have, for example, seed companies, fertilizer companies. We also have a paid project with K+S, which is one of the largest multinational fertilizer companies. And there are also banks, insurance companies, which are really interested in farming and have their own network of farmers, which we can rely on.
We have time for one short question if anyone would like to add something. Okay, if not, thank you so much, Oscar. This was our final team, Cropped. Thank you so much. So these were all of our teams in our ESG category for today. Our jury will now move on to deliberation, and they will decide who will be today's winner and who will join the previous two teams, Easy Albania and Swinto, in the regional final that will happen on 15th of December online, as well as the 3 events that you had a chance to see during past few days. While the jury deliberates, we will get a chance to dive a bit deeper into the topic of ESG, which has been taking the business world by storm, even though it's kind of a new term, at least in broader public. And I'm really glad that we had a chance to include this topic into one of our categories for this year's Elevator Lab Challenge. With me today to discuss ESG, which stands for Environmental, Social, and Corporate Governance, we'll have 3 panelists from the region as well as from the United States. So we will have both European and American perspective to this trend, and we will dive a bit deeper into new trends in the area of ESG. I would first like to invite our first panelist, Danko Kalkan, who is working as ESG manager at EY. Danko, welcome and thank you for answering our call to join us today.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to speak on this very important topic of nowadays. As you rightly pointed out in the beginning, I think at the end of this panel, it will be, as we are for sure going to touch the main points of this important topic to a great degree, it will be self-explanatory why the situation is as you described. But as we talk specifically for EY, the road in front of us is very clear. We want to help our clients to utilize their full sustainability potential to become future-proof. Because of these challenges nowadays, we see that future brings a lot of challenges to companies, to financial sector, which is labeled as one of the most important drivers for future changes. That also means that we are aiming to support financial sector and other companies to define and to implement sustainability strategies, policies, and goals, and to prepare them to implement ever-growing requirements for non-financial reporting, and finally, to make them resilient to transitional and physical climate risks.
Amazing. Thank you for this overview of what you're doing. And I was really curious to see that despite ESG becoming kind of a new hot topic in the business world, we can see this trend of many companies creating entire teams that are dedicated to this subject, which really serves to illustrate this trend. Could you tell us a bit more, since I was really curious about seeing your role in EY. What does ESG manager do, and what type of a job is that? You sort of touched upon it when you talked about what's your role in working with your clients, but I would just like to delve deeper into that to illustrate to our audience as well. What does an ESG manager do, actually?
Yeah, thank you. ESG manager in companies like EY has a role to, as I mentioned, to help our clients to become more resilient, to future-proof. We have to first of all to start with our own frame, with our own backyard, and to see what we as an institution can do in order to decrease our internal direct environmental and social impact. And when we are prepared and when we see what we can do on our markets, we want to provide services to clients from different target groups, including, first of all, financial sector, to prepare them to consult them on how to create, for example, a system which will result in a good sustainability strategy. What are stakeholders interested in their success, and final goal of setting up the system of our clients is to have results, of course, and information which they can use for non-financial reporting, which is becoming a regular part of annual reports. And finally, when it comes to specifically climate change, EY is providing services to companies to prepare for risks which are brought by changes in regulation. Those are transitional risks, and also those risks which are resulted from physical impact of climate change. And we want to make these companies more resilient and future-proof. This is basically the main roles of EY ESG operations.
Perfect. I believe this serves as a good base for our audience who might not be so familiar with the term of what does it mean in practice. And now I will use the chance to introduce our remaining two panelists. It is my great pleasure that we are joined here today by Joanne Go, who is a social entrepreneur based in San Francisco, but currently calling us from New York. And she's managing director at Track2 Media Podcast. She has a lot of experience in working on social change and with social entrepreneurs, both in America as well as in Europe and around the world. So I'm really glad to have you here, Joanne, and thank you for joining us. Okay, we have some trouble hearing you, so I'll move on to Milos to introduce him as well. So Milos is a very talented founder and CEO from Serbia. He's a founder of Strawberry Energy, and I'm sure a lot of you in our audience are familiar with their smart urban furniture, since they were one of the first movers in this field, and their smart benches are all over London and also some other cities in Europe, and he will give us sort of a startup founder's perspective in the area of ESG. Thank you, Milos, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure.
Thanks. I'm really happy for all of you three to be here with us today. Joanne, I'm not sure if you can hear us okay, but I wanted to ask you, Danko and I have been chatting about the growing importance of ESG as a trend in the business world. So I wanted to ask you about your take on this topic, and what do you think are the main forces that accelerated the growth of ESG in the past few years?
Thank you, Nevenka. I think there's at least 4 factors that come to mind for me. You know, the primary one would be E, which is most commonly associated with ESG, so the environmental component. So I think everyone around the world is experiencing severe weather threats, and we're all very familiar with the Paris Agreement and this desire to limit the global temperature increase and become net zero by 2050. And while in many respects that seems far away, it's also something that has become more and more personal season by season, year by year. So I think is itself driving this growing interest. But coming just from the American perspective, when I think of ESG, I really think of it as more like an activist investor or just an investor. And you know, thinking about that from the enterprise level, I would ask the wallet among institutional investors to research ESG topics, not only for the to look, and that's not just sort of like a nice to have soft touch, but I mean, there are ESG factors built into algorithms that assess valuation, and it's been proven profitable. So for investors, third, I would say globalization. Globalization's created a more connected world, meaning that companies across the there's also the experience here, California, and how
we're having some troubles with the connection. While we sort it out, and while you touched upon the investors' perspective, I wanted to hear quickly also Milos's perspective as someone who is starting working on his startup over 10 years ago, when this topic might not have been as hot as it is today. So I'd really like to hear your perspective on how has the perception of investors, stakeholders, and potential partners and clients changed from when you started back 10 years ago, and how do you see it today? Has the interest changed? Has their knowledge changed? And how do you assess the situation today in comparison to when you started?
So yes, thank you. So it definitely changed, and it changed a lot, I would say, especially in the last few years, with the overall focus more shifting toward the net zero agenda, which basically means that like we need to do something about climate change. So although when we first started back in like 2011, 2012, environmental or any kind of green related startups were not necessarily the darlings of the investors back then, because I think that they probably had a few flops in those times. So the overall, I think, wisdom when it comes to the VC world, that it's very expensive, it's not very scalable, and all of these sustainability / green / ecological solutions are not necessarily the ideal startup investment pitch. Due to the difference in terms of the return on investment and kind of the risks related to that. So we did feel that. In the other hand, also it's important to say that we are not necessarily just, although we do have some component when it comes to the sustainability and green, we are more kind of a smart city IoT industry that I think drives majority of our kind of interest and traction. So in that way, we can speak to just one segment of it. But definitely recently, in the last, let's say, 2 to 3 years, the shift changed a lot. It seems now that almost every single investor, professional or private, has a higher agenda when it comes to the environmental and kind of responsible investments. Some of them focusing just on that, some of them having kind of the boxes that they need to tick when it comes to that side of the story. And especially lately, since I think probably this year, with this net zero or carbon zero push that is happening from all of the places, it seems to me that now it's becoming probably even maybe the most hot topic when it comes to the at least general investment, when it comes to the technological sector, and that almost every single, at least as far as I see, every single big investment firm started now adding to the forefront of their agenda the environmental solutions, which is very good. So definitely huge shift in the last few years.
I think this shift can definitely be seen as well in the number of startups that are appearing and are building solutions in this area. So we can see it also through our programs. Back when we were starting, there were barely any startups in this area, and now they are popping everywhere, which is amazing, and it sort of follows this trend. Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective. Danko, I wanted to ask you, from your experience both in EY but also throughout your career, could you share some examples of the companies that adopted ESG principles and really made some meaningful changes in their organizations based on these principles? And what do you find most interesting in those examples?
Yeah, I mean, prior to joining EY, recently I used to work for 10 years in the banking sector and acting as a sustainability manager, a similar role to today. And I had opportunity to see also how the things are developing in the banking sector, but also how the things are going on in the real sector with small and medium companies and agricultural producers. So I mean, all of the reasons mentioned by colleagues today draw to a situation where many companies saw their opportunity in the new environment, where there is a crisis, overall crisis in environment, overall crisis with the resources and climate crisis. But those who saw it as an opportunity started early to develop strategies and systems in order to answer to these challenges. For example, I see a lot of examples in agriculture because it's an open factory. When we speak about environmental factors in ESG, environmental impact on agricultural producers is quite huge. So because there is no roof on their factory, and they are really fastly adopting very contemporary practices from developed world, using cropping technologies, then energy efficiency machines, and also renewable energy, like for irrigation, using solar energy for pumping water, etc. Also, when it comes to other sectors, there are companies from, for example, wood industry, which saw that they should not lose any input material in the process of production, and they are starting implementing the circular economy principles by using machines with precise cutting, or for example with they're using also waste in the process, and the circulating materials in a longer period of time. Also, dairy companies, for example, there was one dairy company we financed. It used to recycle water for cleaning of these devices for dairy production. And there are many other examples. I can talk much longer. When it comes to S&G part of the equation, I must say that those are still not highly in agenda, at least in the Western Balkan, because somehow the E part, environmental, ecological issues, are now getting more visible. But nevertheless, social and governance components, they are all connected also to the environmental component, and sooner or later those three letters will be equalized. But at the moment, social part of ESG is usually can be connected with some benefits in the companies provided, better working conditions, and now we see in the COVID situation that many companies changed their working hours, working days, etc., trying to help their employees adapt to new challenging situation. When we speak about G part, governance, usually, I don't know it's how it came to be, but I would always put G in the first place, because without governance, you don't have any management of environmental risk, environmental and social risk and opportunities. Basically, if we talk about good ENS, then G, at least according to my experience, should be in place, already developed, because G has to do with HR policies, with legal, with many departments in companies. And if it's not set up also for other purposes and for normal functioning of the company, then it's not going to work for ENS. That is my experience. But if I may just add something to the previous questions you posed, there are actually, in my opinion, two reasons for such a, as you mentioned, storm of ESG. The first is urgency, as Joanna said. Those are ecological issues. We see it every day. But also there is agency, which means that there is a sense of power to make a difference. We see it mainly within the youth. Today we have this very strong youth movement of generations of millennials and Z generation. Currently, according to the UN, this population numbers to 1.8 billion. Those are people between 10 and 24 years, already starting working in the companies, becoming also decision makers slowly. And this number of 1.8 billion people, young people, is the biggest ever group of young people, younger generation in the history of world. And they are impacting a lot. We see what was this Fridays for Future movement did to the world. We see it in the last also climate meeting in Glasgow. And companies now are seeing and feeling that those challenges impacting them, not just their reputation, but their core business. I mean, their operations, human capital, assets, profits in the end, which is in the end the most important for most of the people. On the other hand, we see this decrease of costs of green technologies and regulation shifts, and all of this mentioned bring us to the situation to speak of ESG at high level today.
Mm-hmm. I think you really touched upon an interesting topic here in terms of impact on the core business when it comes to not adopting these principles, especially taking into account new consumers that are coming into the markets, and they're consumers that care more about the environment and all those other causes that they find really important. And what I find when I talk with people about ESG and those trends is that there's usually an understanding, whether it be spoken or unspoken, that implementing ESG principles usually means cutting back on profits and getting rid of some things that are actually good for your business, and sacrificing them for some higher causes. So is this a misconception, or do you think that there's some truth to this? Let's call it a prejudice, but it might be a bit of a strong word.
Is it a question for me?
Yes, it's a follow-up for you, but both
Okay.
Milos and Joanne can jump in with their own takes.
Yes, since I was longer last, I will keep it short now. I think that adopting ESG principles could entail some cuts in profit, but first of all, companies should ask themselves if they want to maximize their profit in a short period of time, or they want to set up a system which brings and yields sustainable profit over longer periods to bring on a long-term sustainable value. This is the first question where everything should start with, and then to see, is ESG implementation actually cost or investments for the future?
That's a good perspective. And Milos, you mentioned when we talked about the perspective of investors back when you first started and today, that they weren't really keen on green businesses, and that there were usually some thoughts that business models in this area are really harder to be profitable and to achieve some traction, etc. So I wanted to hear about your first-hand experience of doing this business for 10 years. Which business models have you experimented with, and which ones gave you the best results and have stuck?
So yes, actually, when it comes to that side of the story, I think that today the circumstances and the climate overall is way better for all of the existence. In the same time, it seems to me that there is this kind of altruistic look toward the ecological and sustainability goals in general, and it seems to me that maybe I think that's maybe kind of an old school view on that. It seems to me that you don't have to lose in order to get on this, in a way that at least from my experience, all of the solutions that relied on altruism in terms of people doing something just for the purpose of being good, which was against some kind of either pure logic or their economical interest, it didn't turn very well in the end. It seems to me that at least for now, that the perception is changing, at least from our point of view, where, for example, the cost of solar dropped, I think, like 20 to 30 times for the last 10 years. These things are starting to change. We are working now on for example, in Serbia, we are now working on a project where we want to offer the fairly affordable solar package for the roofs of the consumers. So for the ordinary people. And although it was always considered to be some kind of an act of good, or where like you have to do that because it's green, it's sustainable, it's carbon zero, and all of the other things. So by the very nature of the business, you would be kind of limited just to the small portion of the market where you have this kind of environmentally aware people. Today, the situation, at least as far as we see it economically, actually makes sense to do it. So it's kind of a jointing good and then good and better in the same time, where it's not just that for example, the solar panels will give you sustainable and green and carbon neutral energy, but it actually will be cheaper for you than the alternative. And when in these circumstances, it actually, I think, makes sense to push harder, and that the market adoption for majority of those businesses will actually now starting to shift towards the good direction. Because the economic circumstances now are in favor of that. You don't have, I think that the mention that you have to lose, you have to sacrifice something in order to do this in a good way is no longer true, at least in a lot of the cases, which I think is amazing. And the real change will happen actually when those things, when economic interest and this kind of environmental interest align.
I completely agree, and that's always the best case when you don't really have to push this towards the companies, but it's actually in their economic interest to adopt these changes. That said, I have a question for the entire panel, and I would like to start with Joanne, if the connection allows it. So what do you think are the best ways to incentivize the companies at this point to adopt these principles and move further towards ESG and what it entails?
It's a question for who?
It's a question for Joanne, but I'm not sure if she can hear us. Okay.
Sorry. So I think what you asked for companies that are doing this, is that correct?
So how to incentivize the companies to adopt these principles? Maybe you can try turning off your camera. It's totally fine. Maybe it would make the connection a bit better.
And if you want to paraphrase.
Okay, it seems we're unlucky today with the connection. No problem. Danko, could you give us your perspective in terms of incentivizing the companies for adopting these principles?
Yes, based on my experience, which actually tells that I started in the sustainability field almost 10 years ago, when this topic, as Milos said, was quite awake and not really important on the agendas. It was more nice to have. It was quite a hard job to incentivize, like 10 years ago, anyone to do anything beyond minimum legislative requirements, and environmental, social issues were not at the agenda. Everybody wanted to develop their business in terms of solid incomes and profits, and there was no any kind of systematic approach. But over years, it was a way. It was a hard way to come to this situation, to speak today, that now it's much easier to incentivize. As we already mentioned, the cost of, for example, these technologies dropped from 50 to 100% in the last decade, and it's easier to show investors and businessmen the profit and loss statement and cash flow, and to say, this is for you good investment. It's now much easier, but still ESG is not just around investments in green technologies. It's much beyond that. We have not only climate change as an issue, but also loss of biodiversity, loss of resources, air pollution, very well known here, and similar issues as well. And all these things are communicated quite with a dose of fear. I think we have a communication challenges, all of us who are talking on this topic for the last 5 years at least. Everything is presented like a doom and gloom, and very frightening, that we are going to disappear from this planet very soon if we do not do nothing. But we have to make a step back and to think about change of the way we communicate these challenges, and to start to focus on opportunities this time brings us. This is, in my opinion, business opportunity number one. and that's in order to make that work, we have to communicate to companies that opportunities are actually quite big, and there is no limit on use of them. We can stress on the historical also changes that we are, for many times we faced and we were victims, or we are reading that the civilization faced a lot of crises, but still in the end it turned out to be a revolutionary period where after the crisis very much and many things came into being and helped us to develop it and advance. That is, I think, we should start with the communication with our counterparties to present them all opportunities, all advantages of the new opportunities, and then they will see what is there for them.
Yes, I think it's a great point about the communication gap that definitely exists between people who really care about these topics and get really passionate when talking about it, but the point doesn't really get through to the people who don't see it as such a pressing issue, and that really doesn't lead to the change we maybe all want to see. Milos, do you have your take maybe on this topic as well as a follow-up to what Danko has said?
So I think Danko covered it pretty much nicely. I think basically currently the moment in front of us seems to be, at least like from kind of founder startup kind of opportunity perspective, it seems that the current innovation that will have to be kind of like worked on for the next 30 years related to the basically ESG, but like ecological and sustainability stuff, will be probably the biggest market opportunity and innovation technological opportunity that we've probably seen as a civilization, because literally every single thing that we do today, we need to reinvent to a kind of a carbon zero way, which is going to spur an amazing kind of bandwidth of both funding and innovation and interest and focus to literally of how you move things, to how you make things, to all of these things. In the same time, which we, I think, mentioned earlier, is that the new generation of workforce, like younger people, it seems to be fairly more kind of aware and focused on these kind of concepts in all of the spectrum, not just the ecological one, but like all of the well-being. So it seems to me that those two trends will force the status quo within the regular industries to actually start changing approach and open opportunities for both changing the traditional sector that so far was very, very kind of closed, and in the same time open an area for a completely new technological companies or any kind of other regulation initiatives that will basically push toward the happier place in all of these things that ESG stands for. So in like to sum it up, it seems to me that the current moment is very optimistic when it comes to the changes in front of us when it comes to the ESG.
I'm glad we have an optimistic perspective here. That's definitely necessary when it comes to such a topic that can be frustrating sometimes to talk about, since there is a lot of problems to be solved. I also wanted to shortly come back to our regional perspective here in the Balkans. So as probably all of the people in our audience, as well as the two of you know, we are considered developing economies. And usually in developing economies, there's a debate whether we should prioritize incentivizing our businesses and giving our businesses a chance to maximize their profits and for our economies to grow as fast as possible so we can catch up with the developed countries, or if we should start adopting the principles such as ESG and others right now, and if that can maybe slow our growth rate. So it's kind of seen as a trade-off that we need to make. So how do you see this issue? And I think it's kind of a controversial one, but it's important to address it since it's in a lot of people's minds that maybe we as a region don't really have the luxury to adopt these principles as of now, since we need to focus on some other things like growing our economies. So what's your take on this? Danko, we can start with you.
Yes, thank you for this question. This question is one of my favorite questions since it's quite important, and we hear it from decision makers in our countries. This usual sentence: "We are not rich enough to take care of the environment or whatsoever." I always, because not only these years, but in the past, this question was even more often asked, rightfully. But now, when someone asks me that, I come back with a counter question and ask: is it really a luxury to have a clean environment and good social conditions? I mean, is it really that we have to be rich not to throw away waste into the river or to do whatever to the environment, bad to the environment? This is not easy to explain, but if we go back a little bit and take a bit of a theory and philosophy, we see that actually ecology and economy, they share the same root. This eco, which stems for oikos, which means house or household. But actually, economy and ecology are in constant war in the last, in particular, last 100 years. But due to the reasons we mentioned earlier, now it's, I think, the unique and unprecedented time for the economy and the ecology to come together and not to be against each other anymore, not to antagonize each other anymore because of the already mentioned things related to costs and profitability of ESG implementation. I think it was, first of all, this mantra that we have to wait for a certain development stage to talk about ecology stems from one graph. This is a very important graph in theory of economy and speaks about inequality development in the world. It's known as Kuznets curve. Which shows that over time, as the economy develops, in the early stage, there is a big, the gap between rich and poor are rising to the point where there is a break point of the development. Once a country reaches a certain level of economical development, then this curve starts to fall down. Actually, when and that represents the fall of inequalities. There were some scientists who took this theory and tried to use certain environmental data, pollution data, and to apply the same logic. And somehow, by taking certain information and data about air pollution, or three or four more indicators in around 40 countries, they analyzed these data and came up with the same graph as the Kuznets curve, and they called it environmental Kuznets curve, which shows the same trend: growth of environmental degradation peak when the country starts to become developed, and then decrease in environmental degradation. And this was, as many things in the economy, taken for granted for years, for ages, decades, and was communicating and used and incorporated in many policies on the national levels. But there were also some other researchers who questioned that development path. And started to use different data and also additional information about level of technology, level of countries' share of services, level of democracy, of literacy, and came into completely different conclusion, which is the following. As the more the country is democratic, the more the country is with people who has higher, let's say, level of literacy, the level of ecological awareness is higher. So it's not connection with the economical level, but rather to those of basically basic principles of human development, like literacy, democracy, freedoms, etc. So this is definitely to conclude. I think we should not wait to become a rich and developed country. We have to act, but or not to act only individuals or some companies, but at each level, from schools to economy, through companies like banks, private companies, investors, public companies, and the government.
That's a great point, and thank you for giving also data-based information and opinion about how this trade-off between economy and ecology actually looks in the real world and with the real data. Milos, is there anything to add from your side in terms of our regional perspective and applying these principles and working on our economy in parallel, and how do they meet?
I think it's a very important question. I do not think, at least my personal opinion is that it's probably not as essential to our case, the regional case, as it is to, like, usually when you raise the question, you're thinking about big scale countries like China, India, and the fact that the average person in China or India consumes 80 times less energy than the person in the US, Canada, or the Western Europe. So I think that whatever we do, we are actually not going to change much in that regard. So I think we have actually the freedom in this particular case to actually maybe we are not going to be an important factor there, which gives us basically the freedom to maybe work in any given way we can, because we are all together regionally, we are fairly small when it comes to that question. In the other end, I think that we shouldn't wait, and I think that actually, as I mentioned before, all of these changes are an opportunity in which fairly all of us are new, and the start line is fairly fresh. So that means that we can maybe compete or even outcompete some different countries or different regions when it comes to these innovations, and maybe get the benefit out of it. A very good example is that, let's say, if you ever travel to the US, you would see that, for example, our credit card system is actually, card payment system is actually more advanced than on average than in the US, because we were late to all of the card payment infrastructure. When we came in the late 90s or early 2000s, we actually got the newest technology, while the US was stuck with all of the ones where you have to sign the bill and have the ID with you. And in Serbia, you can just pay with your wirelessly, just touch your card on the payment. So in a very similar way, I think that considering that we are maybe not as developed as some of the other countries, I think we have probably the chance to jump on the newest cutting edge stuff and to implement them for the benefit actually without having to go to the learning curve that the richer countries already did. And probably that's what I would focus more. And I think it's a positive sum game more than a kind of a negative one.
That's an amazing perspective, and I really like that. I haven't heard that before, but it totally makes sense. And also, it's something that's true in the startup world as well as generally in economy, that first mover advantage can be an advantage sometimes, but also it can be your liability because you invest a lot in your R&D, and then other people can build on top of your previous work. So that can be the case on a much larger scale than in a startup. And I think you pointed that out really perfectly to sort of close on this topic. I really like it, and it's a good perspective for our own region, and that we maybe shouldn't be desperate that we are a little behind, and there's definitely an upside to that, but we shouldn't wait too long to jump on this train. Thank you both so much for joining us today. I'm so sorry that Joanne couldn't be a part of the panel after all because of the technical issues, but I'm sure we'll have another chance to meet again together. I'm also getting the information that our jury for today has made the decision about the winner. So I'd like to use this chance to thank you again and to wish that we will join again and discuss this topic possibly in a sooner moment in time and to witness great progress that has been made in our region in terms of ESG. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you also to you, our audience, who are still with us and who are watching our panel on new trends and developments in ESG. And at this point, I would like to invite our jury member, Bujar, who is going to announce the winner of ESG category between the 6 startups that we saw today.
Hi, thank you, Nevenka. So we chose the winner. Definitely, it wasn't an easy, let's say, job to do, because as we saw, there are great potential amongst all these companies. Nevertheless, considering their innovative product and the impact that we consider the product would have over the environment, we chose Tepema as the winner. Nevertheless, we are very sure on the great success of the other companies as well.
Okay, so Tepema is the winner of our third category of Elevator Lab Challenge Southeast Europe. I think the Tepema representatives are still not here with us, so we will have a chance to see their pitch once again and get reminded of what's the product that they are developing. Thank you so much, Bujar, for announcing the decision that the jury made. I'm sure it wasn't really an easy task for you folks.
Hello, I'm Dion Deva, CEO of Tepema, a green and sustainable design living space solution company that operates in the smart and sustainable cities industry, fighting the climate change that are a serious threat to human civilization. We have built the SOT 2.0, is the innovative version of vertical greenery application, complementary to solar panels. Solar panels generate energy. The SOT 2.0 saves energy, through which we insulate buildings thermally and save electricity using 80% of recycled textile materials. The level of innovation is like when we went from the classic TVs to the flat ones. The bigger impact of our product is in Mediterranean countries, because all enterprises that have a lot of staff in their offices and will spend a lot of fixed cost in the electricity bill, we're going to help. We provide these companies around 30% cut on electricity bills at the end of the year. In addition to the wonderful facade that eliminates pollutants, we guaranteed 5 years return on investment. We're confident because we're testing in Pristina the prototype of the facade 2.0, which is designed in modules for easy replicable production. Compared to the classic form or vertical greenery, we have reduced 50% of installation costs. We had an exponential revenue growth from 0 to 50K and then to 250K per year. We have already built the product in the second frequent street in Kosovo. That's why we need 500K to make it facade 2.0 like solar panels, and the proprietary service in order to protect our market. In this way, we will continue into the multi-billion market green facade, and our engines are higher margin due to low cost of production, market size and demand, and the third, customer's life. Our clients are investing €0, and we're partners sharing the savings from electricity bills. From the outdoor, each house we're in a green facade at the end of the year will prevent 500 kilograms of CO2, or 20% better. Taken together, the first entire beachhead market will prevent 66,000 tons of carbon dioxide. I marvel to be part of a wonderfully talented team that created 2 sustainable companies, 13 products, 5 of them into the market, serving 1,100 people. Thank you from our team, me, Gente, and Blondie.
Hi, Dion. Congratulations.
Hello. Thank you very much. I really appreciate. So thank you again for choosing me. And I congratulate other startups with wonderful ideas that I learned a lot.
Great. How are you feeling?
Of course, I'm feeling that all that effort is not losing. So now is the time to start our engines and to work on. And I'm very, very happy to be a partner with such a bank as Raiffeisen Bank, knowing that we also have our beachhead market as banks, and also we see as a partner within our business model. So we have 2 ways of cooperation.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for joining and sharing your thoughts about this victory. And I totally agree that now is the perfect time to double down on your efforts and work even harder on building your solution. We will see you on the 15th of December in the regional final. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so this was Dion from Tepema, the winners of our ESG category in this year's Elevator Lab Challenge Southeast Europe. And with this, we are concluding our final category event for this year. And we will see you all on the 15th of December on our regional final. Just to remind you, we will see 3 startups who will be competing for the title of the regional winner of this year's challenge. And the startups we will see are Easy Albania, Swinto, and Tepema, the winner of today's category. All category winners have won 5,000 euros grant and will have a chance to integrate their innovation inside regional Raiffeisen Banks network of more than 2.6 million clients. And the regional winner will win additional 10,000 euros grant and also have a chance to pitch at International Elevator Lab Demo Day in 2022 and meet senior bank managers from regional Raiffeisen Banks and RBI head office in Austria. I would like to thank you, our audience, for sticking with us for all 3 days and watching and writing passionate comments about your favorite startups that were competing. I hope you will be with us on 15th of December and cheer for your favorite startups that are competing for the title of the regional winner. I would like to wish you a lovely Friday and a great weekend. And thank you once again for being with us. Have a lovely evening and a good night. And thank you.